What's going on, people? Today it's going to be a quicker video, but I've been getting some questions regarding Tempestite and also Helldrider as far as how these familiars work together. So I went ahead and did some tests for you guys just to see how it all worked and giving you some information. So Helldrider, as you guys know, will have Hellish Curse, which petrifies one of the largest enemy squad for 11 seconds when 7% of your troops have fallen. Now, a lot of you notice that that's very similar to what Tempestite does with Whirlwind, and that is stuns one of your enemy's largest squad for 8 seconds when 10% of your troops have fallen. So again, the biggest difference there is the thresholds for these things actually going off and the time limit, but also the wording, because Whirlwind says stuns while Helldrider says petrifies. So I did some testing, and here's basically what I came up with. So on this one, everything, I guess really all of these stuff doesn't really make a difference. The biggest thing is how does Whirlwind and Hellish Curse actually work with each other. So if we're going to go ahead and take a look at this and see where these familiars actually go ahead and proc, we're going to go ahead and see, first of all, Hellish Curse should be the first one to actually proc. So it should be right after this. And here it is. Actually, both of them proc. So if you take a look here, they actually went ahead and go into the same squad, which is that middle left squad, and that's why the other three are not actually stunned or petrified or anything like that. The only one that's not moving is that middle left one, and because both of them went off at the same time, they targeted the same squad. So unfortunately, they don't actually automatically target another squad if one is already stunned / petrified. So that's also something to keep in mind, because at that point you're basically just wasting one familiar slot because one of them basically did nothing. Now let's take a look at the other one here. Let's go ahead and view the battle. So on this one, I made it a little bit easier to see. So we're gonna go ahead and charge in. This is my cav into the range and then some range in the front, or in the back I should say, just because I wanted to lose enough troops. So there's the Hellish Curse. Hellish Curse goes into the middle right, and then that one also goes into the middle right, the Tempestite. So again, they're targeting the same squad, and because that happens, a lot of times you're just wasting one familiar. And also there was a question made, like, if your squad is petrified, can they actually take damage? And the answer to that is also yes. On this last example here, I made it a little even clearer, because here what's gonna happen is I have my infantry going into their side squad, and you're gonna see the familiars are actually gonna go for one in the middle and one on the side, and you'll see that not only do they if they target separate squads, it actually helps quite a bit, but even if you're petrified or stunned, that squad or those troops can still actually take damage. So let's see it in action. There we go. So there goes my first familiar, and here comes Hellish Curse. Hellish Curse is going to go to the middle right, and then Tempestite is going to go to the left corner. So as you can tell, the biggest difference here is that when you're stunned, you have like this little swirl on top of your squad, and when you're petrified, your troops just become like stone. But at the end of the day, it does the same thing. It just basically freezes those troops / heroes in place to where they don't do anything, right? Now, as to the other question, do they take damage? So take a look at this. The left corner is stunned, and the middle the middle right hand side is petrified. But if you take a look, every time you see their bar, the red bar, come up, it means that they're taking damage, and all of the bars are up, meaning that they're all taking damage, which means that no matter what, you're always going to be taking damage depending on their targeting. So what does that tell me about these familiars? First of all, if you can get it to work right, you can actually make it to where it helps you quite a bit, because essentially you can stun 2 of the squads that are coming at you, and essentially that could be about 50% of the rally if it is a blast rally, right? The big drawback to that is that it is very, very hard to manipulate, because a lot of times you may actually end up hitting the same squad. And what that means is that you'll eventually be wasting a slot. So unless you can really control how this goes, a lot of times you're not going to be really benefiting from running both familiars at the same time. And obviously Helldrider with Hellish Curse will be the best one in general, just because it procs with less troops lost and it lasts longer. But of course, it is a much higher cost for getting Helldrider finished. So hopefully that answers some of the questions that I saw on my last video regarding both of these, like what's the difference between Stun and Petrified. It's basically, there's no difference, it's just worded differently. I'm not really sure why, but it's just what it is. And yes, they can hit the same squad, which means you lose a lot of bonus, especially you lose an extra familiar, and your troops can take damage if they are petrified slash stunned, so you can't really work around that. Yeah, like I said, appreciate you guys for asking me the questions first of all. That way I can actually go ahead and answer it. If you have any questions, definitely let me know. And if you actually see anything different in your own testing, let me know and we can do some further testing. But I just wanted to go ahead and do this test really quickly, just to see if those things actually came to pass, like if they're frozen, they don't take damage, etc, etc. So hopefully this was helpful in making up your mind as to what familiars you want to run and all of that good stuff. But yeah, appreciate you guys for coming through. Don't forget that I do have 2 polls up as far as the next game that we're going to be playing for the month of January, and also the streaming time. So if you haven't already voted on that, make sure that you do so under the community tab. But yeah, like I said, appreciate you guys for coming through, and until later, bye.